Hello and welcome everyone. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Nuwair Yudaris. This is your host Mahmoud Nuwair. We'll be going through behavioral sciences on cognition, consciousness, and language. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share the content. Now the comment sections are open. I fixed the problem, so let's dive deep into that video today. So we're gonna go and start off with information processing model. What is information processing model? Basically, it states that you need to get exposed to like stimuli, sensation, sensory, um, memory, or sense. Like you have to see the stuff, you have to smell the stuff, you have to just it has to go through your sensation. Then you encode it. Then you store the stimuli. So it's three stages: sensation, encoding, and storage. And in order to be useful in decision making, the stimuli must be analyzed. So let's say you see, I don't know, for instance, an elderly person fall. So you see it, you encode it, you store the stimuli, you analyze it. Oh, this is what's happening. I need to intervene, go help them, for instance, all right? Decisions from different situations can be adjusted to solve new problems because uh, that's how your brain works. Okay, depending on your cognitive level and the context and the complexity of the problem, you're gonna face new problems every day, and you're gonna make your brain work to find new solutions and adjust it to solve new problems. So cognitive development is divided into four stages. You got the sensory motor, and then you got the pre-operational stage. You got the concrete operational, and then you got the formal operations. Operational. So three operational, one sensory motor. So the sensory motor usually occurs from birth to 2 years, and then to summarize, it's basically manipulating the environment for physical needs and learning sensory input coordination with motor action and ends by object permanence. Object permanence is basically that the objects exist when out of the view. Example of that is peekaboo. You know, when you go to a kid, for instance, and then you hide your face, they're like, oh, where did they go? And then you go peekaboo, now you're there. And then you hide your face again, they're like, where did they go? And then you go again peekaboo. So that's object permanence, that they begin to realize that you exist beyond the peekaboo stage. Also, kids or like infants in this time, they manipulate the environment. What does that mean? So, for instance, they cry for their needs, and then they just manipulate objects or stimuli to try and get everyone's attention. They throw toys. They want to get your attention at this age, or for their own needs. You know, maybe they cry for food or for water, etc., etc. So you got the primary circular reaction. That's repetitive body movement. They appear to be calming. It's like at this stage, um, now they're in a new learning period. They kind of rely on themselves until they learn to trust their environment. And calming, something that would they do to calm themselves is like, for instance, sucking their thumb. And then you got the secondary circular reaction, which is basically repetitive manipulation of the object or the stimuli, just like I said, to get a reaction from the environment. Next, you got the pre-operational stage, which occurs from 2 to 7 years old, and in this stage, it's marked by two things: egocentrism and symbolic thinking. With symbolic thinking, it's pretend, play, make, believe, and imagination. Kids use their imagination. Oh yeah, let's play, for instance, cops and robbers. Let's build an imaginary castle, stuff like that. Egocentrism is inability to imagine what others think or feel. So let's say, um, I don't know, a kid at this age is maybe, I don't know, playing with a toy, and then there's another kid that wants to play with a toy, and he really wants, um, you know, to try it. The kid playing with a toy won't really have the ability to, imagine what the other kid would feel like. They're like, oh, they don't understand their feelings, that they're sad, that they want to play with them, unless like he approaches them. So they don't have the cognitive development to have that. So a flaw of this stage is centration. So centration for like just focusing on a certain perspective and ignoring other factors. Just focusing on like one thing. They still haven't developed other perspectives. Then you got the concrete operational stage, and the children here understand conservation and they consider others' perspectives. And here happens a loss of egocentrism and they start to engage in logical thinking. So they lose the fact that they can't really understand what the others think or feel. They begin to logically think about things more. Next, you have formal operational stage, which starts like after 11 years old, and abstract thinking starts here, and the ability to problem solve also starts. Then you got fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. So fluid intelligence is solving new problems using creative methods. Crystallized intelligence is problem solving using acquired knowledge. It's like procedure. So with fluid intelligence, what I want you to imagine, like in order to know the difference between them, is a wave. You know, fluid, wave. You know, as you go through life, you earn experiences, you go through events, and then this is what fluid intelligence is. You earn experiences, you know how to do things, and then you combine them to have like creative methods. And then crystallized, you earn it through like knowledge, through like someone teaching it, or through for instance reading about it, about a procedure. That's the difference. Crystallized is through knowledge, and then fluid is through like creative methods. Next, you have deductive reasoning, which is also called top-down. And then in this, you start with a general hypothesis, and then you examine possibilities to reach a logical solution. For instance, let's say I'm making a general hypothesis. All dogs have ears, all right? And then I make another statement. I'm like, Chihuahua is a dog. So my conclusion or a logical solution is Chihuahua has ears. Then you have inductive bottom-up reasoning. You start with a specific example and then you work your way up to a general hypothesis. So for instance, again, Chihuahua is a good pet. Dogs are pets. All dogs are good. So with the inductive reasoning, it may not be true because you're creating a general hypothesis from a specified example. Next, we have heuristics. These are principles you use to make decisions. You got two types. The availability heuristic, which is basing the likelihood of an outcome on a example of an event you had in your life. For instance, let's ask yourself a question. So is tourism, for instance, dangerous in South America? And then this answer is going to be based on your experience. Maybe you went there and you had the best time of your life. And then if someone asks you that question, you'll be like, no, it's not. And then maybe you went there and then something bad happened to you. And then you would tell people, they're like, oh, yeah, um, yeah, I'm not going there again. Or maybe you don't want to go there again because you saw something on the TV. They're like, oh, nope, I'm not going there. Here also, the person is watching a documentary about sharks being in the water, and then he assumes that, oh yeah, because oh he's at the beach, there's gonna be sharks. So there's that. Representative heuristics are categorizing items based on how they fit a stereotypical or represent an image of a category, or how were we like exposed to them to be presented. For instance, you flip a coin and then you know how they say there's a 50% chance. That's not the case. Uh, what if you flip 10 coins and they all land on head 10 times? People overestimate this fact. Next, you have confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is tendency to focus on information that fits an individual's beliefs while rejecting information against him or against that belief. It's basically overconfidence. Where not really, a little bit of overconfidence in it. So for instance, we're someone with a strong belief in the superiority that organic food is better than non-organic food, for instance, and then may disregard information or comes across an article that states that organic food is similar, for instance, as non-organic food. So they choose so this article contradicts what they believe. So they choose to just like ignore the article and move on with their day. They don't accept the information, and then they stick to their belief. Next, you got hindsight bias. It's a tendency to look back at an event that we could not predict and think the outcome was easily predictable. For instance, let's say you're watching a soccer game and then you have like, oh, um, if I don't know, Morocco versus Portugal, and then Morocco won. All right, and then you're like, oh yeah, I could have predicted that Morocco would have won easily, something like that, for instance. Next, you have Gardner's intelligences. So these are linguistic, logical, mathematical, musical, visual, spatial. So this is what Gardner intelligences like basically describe. And then you got the stages of consciousness. Stages of consciousness is sleep, dreaming, and alerted state of consciousness. What is alertness really? Alertness is the state of consciousness in which we are awake and able to think. You're alert with the environment around you. So here we're going to describe like the stages of sleep. So here you have an EEG recording sleep and walking waves. So you got multiple waves. You got beta, alpha, theta, and delta. Beta waves are when we are awake and the person is alert. So you're awake right now, you're watching the video, you're producing beta waves. Right? Next you have alpha waves. When we are awake but eyes are closed. They're a bit slower than beta waves. These alpha waves that are being um, produced or given off. So let's say you're just resting on a bus station and closing your eyes. That's like alpha waves. Next, you have theta waves in the NREM, so the non-rapid eye movement sleep. Here you got multiple stages. Stage 1 is the sleep period. As soon as you sleep, a slow frequency and irregular waveform of theta waves. And then you got stage 2, it's you're getting deeper into the sleep. Theta waves are present with sleep spindles and the K complex. And then lastly, slow wave sleep on a high voltage. This is like basically deep sleep. Stage 3 is deep sleep. And then last stage is REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, where dreams occur. And it's interspersed between the NREM sleep cycle, and it lasts 90 to 120 minutes throughout your sleep cycle. Next, you have the circadian rhythm, which regulate the cycle of waking up and sleeping, and it's affected by light. So here you're going to sleep. Let's say you're going to sleep at like 11, all right? So melatonin is being produced by pineal gland to contribute to sleep, and it's being produced throughout the night. And then as soon as like it's time for you to wake up, melatonin stop, and then you got cortisol, which increases in the morning to because like light. Let's say you have your window open or someone opens the light, and then you got cortisol increases in the morning and activates CRF, which helps us wake up. CRF, by the way, is produced from not adrenal, pituitary adrenal cortex. No, yeah. Next, you have the activation synthesis theory. So, sometimes you get like weird dreams or like you don't even know what's happening in a dream at all. So this is what activation synthesis is. It's a dream caused by random activation of neural pathways and neural activity. So these are a mix of stored memories, met and unmet desires, and the cortex stitches bizarre dream. Problem solving dream theory is like when before you go to sleep, you're like thinking about a problem, you're thinking about something, I don't know, 1 plus 1, what is the outcome of that? And then while you're in your sleep, you solve that in your head, and because maybe you think of different interpretations for that. Next, you have the cognitive process dream theory. Dreams are thoughts or sequences of thoughts. Next, we come to the GABA activity. So alcohol increases GABA activity. GABA is basically a neurotransmitter that helps with like calmness, decreases anxiety. So basically, alcohol causes increase in GABA activity, and then it causes hyperpolarization. Hyperpolarization is the influx or increase of like the potassium um, influx beyond the action potential until it goes back to its normal, and then the brain is inhibited. Alcohol increases dopamine level and causes alcohol myopia, which is basically lack of self-control. Sedatives, calmness and downness increases the this should be GABA, not Gaga. I don't know. Maybe I was thinking about Lady Gaga. Who knows? But yeah, it's GABA. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And hopefully, you have a wonderful day. Let me know if you have any topics you want me to speak about. Yep. Goodbye.